Chosen one. Stop. Do not scroll past this. What I am about to tell you is critical. The enemy has been working overtime. He wants to make sure you never hear this. You have been lied about. You have been betrayed. You have been quietly surrounded. People smiled at your face. They sharpened their knives behind your back. You have been carrying that weight alone in silence. Wondering if God even sees you. He sees it, every single detail of it. He did not bring you here by accident. You were directed here. By name, the answer you have been begging heaven for. The vindication, the reversal, the breakthrough. It starts today. It starts in the next few minutes. Do not leave this video early. You will miss the one word that changes everything. Stay with me. Most people will never say this out loud in church. Most pastors will dance around it. Most teachers will soften it. Most motivational voices will avoid it completely. It requires spiritual honesty, the kind that makes religious people uncomfortable. I want to talk about something real. What happens when God allows it? When you are surrounded by people. People who are quietly trying to destroy you. Not strangers, not enemies you can see coming. People you trusted, people you prayed with, people you shared your table with. They smiled at you on Sunday. They whispered about you on Monday. I want to talk about the moment God decided, enough. Here is what I know about you. The person watching this right now. You have been carrying something extraordinarily heavy. You have been carrying it quietly, with grace, with dignity, without telling the whole world your pain, and somewhere deep inside you, underneath the exhaustion, underneath the confusion, underneath the quiet ache, the feeling of being misunderstood, misrepresented. There is a voice, a still, small voice. It keeps whispering, "Hold on. This is not the end of your story." That voice is not your imagination. That voice is God. And today He sent me to confirm it. Everything that voice has been telling you is true. Let me start at the very beginning. Not your beginning. The real beginning of what you are going through. There is a spiritual law. Most people have never been taught this. It is ancient. It is woven into the fabric of this universe, and it is this. Light does not attract light alone. Light also attracts interference. When God places an anointing on a person's life, hear me very carefully. I am speaking directly to you. When God places His hand on someone, when He begins to increase them, when He begins to sharpen them, when He begins to enlarge their territory. Something happens in the invisible realm. Very few people talk about this. The light they carry begins to shine. That divine, God-placed light. It does something unsettling. It unsettles the people around them. The people still operating in darkness. It exposes them, not by anything the anointed person does deliberately, not by accusation, not by confrontation, simply by existing. Simply by walking in the room, simply by being who God made them to be. And when darkness is exposed, it does not quietly retreat. It attacks. This is the moment most people get confused. You wake up one day, you feel the weight of something you cannot name. You feel a resistance you did not invite. You feel exhausted in ways that sleep does not fix. You feel like you are fighting a war you never declared, and because no one ever taught you this principle, you start to ask yourself a dangerous question, the most dangerous question a chosen person can ask. What did I do wrong? Nothing. You did nothing wrong. Let me say that again, so it lands somewhere deep in your spirit. You did nothing wrong. What you are experiencing is not the consequence of your failure. What you are experiencing is the direct result of your anointing. It is producing spiritual pressure in the people around you. People who are not ready. People who were never meant to go where God is taking you. The lion does not apologize for making the hyenas nervous, and here is where it gets deeply personal. Some of you watching this right now, you have spent months going back, maybe years, going back over every conversation, every decision, every word you said, trying to find the mistake that caused people to turn on you. You have apologized when you had nothing to apologize for. You have made yourself smaller, to make others more comfortable. You have dimmed your light to preserve peace. You have given second chances, third chances, fourth chances, to people who were using every one of those chances, gathering more ammunition against you, and you called that humility. God calls it something else. God calls it the season before the turning. Here is what I need you to understand about divine timing. God does not waste a single moment of your suffering. He is not in heaven watching you be walked over. He is not thinking, "Poor thing." He is watching with the eyes of a master architect. He sees what you cannot yet see, every moment of pressure, every betrayal, every door slammed in your face, every whisper campaign launched. Against your name, every single one of those things is being woven together into the most breathtaking testimony you have ever witnessed. But first we need to talk about who has been doing this to you, naming it, not in bitterness, but in discernment. That is the first act of your liberation. There is a pattern I have seen, repeated across the lives of people God is elevating without exception, in every culture, every background, every season of life. The opposition almost always comes from the inner circle first, not your worst enemy. Your closest companion, the friend who was the first to hear your vision and the first to quietly mock it behind your back, the family member who appeared in the front row of your life every time the cameras were on and disappeared the moment you genuinely needed someone in the dark, the colleague, the ministry partner, the person you poured into, the one you defended when others criticized them, who turned around and became the chief architect of your opposition. The moment your light began to outshine theirs, and I need you to hear this next part without flinching, because this is the part that will set you free. They did not turn on you because you failed them. They turned on you because you were becoming who God always said you were. They felt it, even if they could not name it, even if it was entirely subconscious. They felt that your elevation was a mirror held up to their stagnation. Your progress was a rebuke of their choices, not by anything you said, just by what your life was becoming. And so a decision was made. Perhaps not a dramatic, conscious, conspiratorial decision, though sometimes it is exactly that, but a spiritual decision, a heart-level decision. I cannot compete with this person's destiny, so I will attack it instead. And the attacks began. Whispers at first, small undermining comments dropped casually into conversations. With mutual friends, small seeds of doubt planted about your character, your motives, your integrity. Have you noticed how she has changed? I just do not trust something about him. I am not saying anything bad. I am just asking, are you sure you can trust them? Soft words, careful words. Words designed to create just enough doubt to begin eroding the foundation of your reputation without leaving fingerprints, and you felt it before you could see it clearly. You felt the temperature drop in rooms when you entered. You felt the slight hesitation in people who used to embrace you warmly. You noticed the eyes that would not quite meet yours. You sensed it, with that deep spiritual intuition God placed in you. Something was happening in the shadows that no one was willing to say to your face, and you wondered if you were imagining it. You were not imagining it. You were perceiving it, with spiritual clarity, with God-given discernment. And the reason it hurt so deeply, the reason the betrayal cut so far beneath the surface, is because God wired you with a capacity for love and loyalty that made you vulnerable to people who understood how to weaponize it. Your greatest strength became the open door, through which the enemy sent his agents. But I am here to tell you that door is about to be permanently sealed, and everything that entered through it is about to be permanently expelled, not by your hand, by God's. I need you to stay with me right here, because I have just described the wound. I have just named the pain. But what I am about to share with you in the next section of this message is something I have never heard taught quite this way before. I have been studying these spiritual principles for a very long time. What I am about to show you is the hidden mechanics, how God dismantles a coordinated spiritual attack and turns it into a launchpad for supernatural elevation. I am going to show you the boomerang. I am going to show you how every single weapon formed against you is not just going to fail. It is going to return to the one who launched it, multiplied and accelerated. But more than that, I am going to show you what your part is, because God is not asking you to fight. He is asking you to do something far more powerful than fighting. And when you truly understand what that is, you will never look at your situation the same way again. Do not move. Do not close this video, because what is coming next is the part that changes everything. There is a passage in the ancient scriptures, a psalm written by King David. I want to bring it to life for you today, in a way that goes far beyond the surface reading. David knew more about being surrounded by enemies, about being betrayed by insiders, about being falsely accused than perhaps any figure in human history, and in the middle of his most desperate season, hunted, slandered, abandoned by those he loved, he wrote words that contain one of the most powerful spiritual principles ever recorded. He said, "They dug a pit for my feet, and fell into it themselves. They set a net for me, and were themselves caught in it." Read that slowly. Let that land. They dug the pit. They built the trap. They invested time, energy, strategy, coordination, and spiritual resources into the construction of your destruction. And in the moment they were most confident the trap was complete, God flipped it, not slowly, not partially, not after long negotiations, completely, suddenly, and with a divine precision that left no doubt about who had intervened. This is what I call the boomerang principle, and it is not poetic language. It is not wishful thinking. It is a documented, repeatable, spiritual law. It operates with the same reliability as gravity when a human being makes the deliberate choice to align with darkness. For the purpose of destroying someone God has marked, they do not simply fail in that mission. They activate a divine counter mechanism that redirects every ounce of destructive energy they deployed back to its source with interest. Let me make this concrete, so you understand exactly what this means for your situation right now. Every lie that was told about you is gathering itself into a testimony about them. Every door they tried to close in your face had them unknowingly step back from a door God was about to open exclusively for you. Every relationship they poisoned against you was a relationship God was already in the process of removing from your life, because those people were not assigned to your next season. They were only present in your current one, and the enemy, in his arrogance, did the pruning work that God would have had to do more gently. Every moment they celebrated what they believed was your humiliation was a moment God was documenting their character for the exact right time. This is not revenge theology. I need to be very clear about that. This is not about hatred or bitterness or wanting to watch people fall. God is not in the business of punishing people to satisfy your wounds. What he is in the business of is justice. Sovereign, unhurried, absolute justice, and the justice he is arranging for your life does not look like what the world imagines justice looks like. It looks like a table. The scripture says, "You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies." Not after they leave, not in a private room away from their gaze, not in secret so they do not have to feel uncomfortable in their presence. God is going to publicly honor what they privately tried to destroy. He is going to visibly elevate what they invisibly attempted to bury, and there will come a moment. Mark this in your spirit, because it is coming. There will come a moment when the very people who orchestrated your opposition will have no choice but to witness the fullness of what God has done for you, and they will not be able to explain it. They will not be able to attribute it to luck, to privilege, to timing, to anything other than the visible, undeniable, overwhelming favor of God on a life they tried to extinguish. That moment is being prepared right now. Even as you watch this video, the table is being set. But here is the part that requires something from you. Here is the part that most people do not want to hear, because it demands a kind of courage that is harder than fighting. It requires separation. I said what I said. Separation, not anger, not bitterness. Not a dramatic confrontation where you finally say everything you have been holding back. Not a public declaration. Not a social media announcement. Quiet, holy, deliberate separation. Because here is the spiritual reality that no one is telling you. You cannot fully receive the blessing God has prepared if you are still tethered emotionally, spiritually, relationally. To the people who were sent to delay it, their assignment is to keep you in the pit, and one of the primary tools the enemy uses to keep chosen people in the pit is the illusion that leaving would be unloving, unchristian, ungrateful, or proud. He will make you feel guilty, for the very boundary that God is commanding. He will use religious language to keep you tied to toxic connections. Forgiveness means staying. No, it does not. Love covers everything. Yes, love covers sins. Love does not cover continued access to your life by people whose agenda is your destruction. You can forgive someone completely. You can release them fully before God. Hold no malice, genuinely pray for their flourishing, and still close the door. In fact, closing the door may be the most loving thing you can do for yourself, and sometimes even for them, because as long as you remain accessible to people operating in a spirit of envy and opposition, you provide them with the continued opportunity to sin against you, and God does not want that for them, any more than He wants it for you. The separation He is calling you to is not punishment for them. It is protection for both of you, and I need to tell you something about this separation. Something you may not have considered. The season of separation is not a quiet, uneventful waiting room. It is a holy forge. It is the furnace in which God is about to do the most extraordinary work in your life, the most concentrated, the most deeply personal work He has ever done. What you experience in this season of holy separation, in this season of severe consecration, will produce a version of you that you have only glimpsed in your highest moments of prayer. A version of you that is not moved by what moved you before. A version of you so deeply anchored in your identity. Your God-given, covenant-sealed, unshakable identity, that the opinions of those who oppose you carry absolutely zero weight, because here is the secret the enemy does not want you to discover. The primary reason opposition has had any power over you, up to this point, is that some part of you was still looking to your accusers for validation. Some part of you still cared what they thought. Some part of you was still hoping they would see you, understand you, acknowledge you, vindicate you before people. And God is saying, that job is mine, not theirs. And I am going to do it in a way that goes so far beyond anything they could have offered, that you will wonder why you ever wanted their approval in the first place. The season of consecration He is calling you into is the season in which that need for human validation is surgically, lovingly, permanently removed from the core of who you are, and it cannot be removed while you are still in the presence of the people who exploited it. This is why the separation must happen. This is why the boundary must be built, not in rage, not in bitterness, not in the need to be understood or justified, but in quiet obedience, in the still, settled confidence of a person who has heard from God, and who has decided that what God says about their life matters infinitely more than what any human being on this earth is whispering about it. You are being called out of the camp, and the question is not whether God will honor that step. The question is simply, will you take it? I want to pause right here for just a moment, because I know there is someone watching this right now who has been nodding to everything I have said. Because every single word has been describing your life with a precision that has your hands slightly trembling and your eyes a little full, and in this moment there is a quiet, holy recognition happening inside you that this message was not random, that you did not stumble upon this video by accident, and I want to say something to you that I need you to receive all the way down to your foundation. You are not too far gone. You have not missed the window. You have not been too broken, too beaten up, too tired, too compromised, too delayed. The fact that you are still here, watching this, still believing, even weakly, even barely, that God has something more for you, that itself is the evidence of the anointing on your life. Because broken people with no divine assignment would have given up a long time ago, you are still here, and that is prophetic. What I am about to share in the final part of this message is the most important thing I have said today. It is the part that moves this from a message of encouragement into a message of activation. Because it is one thing to understand your situation. It is an entirely different thing to know exactly what God is requiring of you, right now, in this hour. This last portion is the one you are going to want to replay. Stay with me. I want to tell you what I believe God is doing in this exact season of your life, and I am going to be specific because vague spiritual encouragement is easy to give and easy to forget. What I want to give you is something you carry with you for the rest of this year. something that changes how you interpret every single thing that happens to you. From this day forward, God is not trying to repair what was broken. He is building something entirely new. This is a distinction that matters enormously, because if you believe He is simply trying to restore your previous life, you will spend this entire season looking backward. You will measure your progress by how close you are getting to what you had before. You will feel like every step forward is also a step away from the past, and that grief will slow you down. But if you understand that what God is building is categorically different from, and categorically superior to, everything that existed before the opposition began, then everything changes. The loss of certain relationships is not a wound to be mourned. It is the removal of walls from a space that needed to be expanded. The closed doors are not evidence of rejection. They are redirections. The very things you have been grieving are the clearing of the land, on which God is about to build something magnificent. This is the reversal, not just the reversal of your enemy's plans, though that is already in motion, the reversal of your entire perspective, the reversal of your interpretation of everything that has happened to you. The years that felt like the enemy was winning were the exact years God was removing everything from your life. Everything that was not built to last, the relationships that crumbled. They were not built on foundations that could sustain the weight of where you are going. If they had remained, they would have collapsed under the pressure of your destiny and caused far greater devastation at a far more critical moment. God, in His sovereign mercy, removed them now, even through painful means, so that you arrive at your appointed place, unencumbered, unentangled, and uncompromised. The opposition was not interrupting your story, it was editing it, and now we are arriving at the pages that all of it was preparing you for. I want to speak to you now about what this next season is going to look like, not in abstractions, in the practical, tangible reality of what it means to walk into divine vindication with your whole self. The first thing you are going to notice is a quiet you have not experienced in a long time, when you make the choice to separate, not in anger, but in holiness. When you begin to build the boundaries God is asking you to build, there will be a period of unusual, almost disorienting quiet. The noise that you had become so accustomed to, the noise of managing toxic relationships, the noise of navigating other people's agendas, the noise of defending yourself, explaining yourself, proving yourself. That noise is going to stop, and for a moment the silence may feel like loneliness. It is not loneliness, it is preparation. It is the quiet before the significant. It is the stillness that precedes the most productive season of your life. It is God clearing the frequency so that you can hear Him clearly, directly, without the interference and static of voices that were never meant to be part of your story. In that quiet, He is going to begin to show you things about yourself, about your gifts, about the specific calling He placed on your life. Before any of these people were ever in the picture, He is going to revive things in you that you thought were dead. He is going to resurrect dreams that were buried under the weight of other people's limitations. He is going to remind you of the version of yourself, the version that existed before the world started telling you who you were allowed to be, and you are going to weep, not in grief, in recognition, in the holy shock of seeing yourself, your real, God-designed, unreduced, unlimited self. Perhaps for the very first time in years, this is the consecration season, and in this season there are things God is asking you to do, not to earn His favor, you already have it, but to partner with what He is already doing, to cooperate with the process of your own elevation. The first is this: guard what you share and with whom. In this season, God is going to begin to give you things in your spirit. Dreams, ideas, visions, strategies, creative inspirations. These are the seeds of what He is building, and every seed is vulnerable before it is rooted. Every seed can be stolen. Every seed can be trampled. The enemy knows what those seeds carry. They carry the harvest of your next decade. And he will send someone into your life whose sole assignment is to get you to share those seeds before they are protected enough to survive scrutiny. Do not share everything. There is a time for testimony, but this season is primarily for cultivation, not proclamation. Learn to carry sacred things quietly before God. Learn The holy discipline of being pregnant with purpose and not announcing it prematurely. The announcement will come, and when it does, it will come with the undeniable evidence of a life already transformed. It will not need defense or explanation. It will speak entirely for itself. The second thing God is asking of you in this season is this: remain soft. This is the one that requires the most intentional courage. Because the natural human response to betrayal is hardness. It is the building of walls so high and so thick that nothing and no one can ever wound you that way again. And I understand that impulse. I understand it deeply because it comes from a place of genuine self-preservation. But hardness is also the closing of the very chambers of the heart through which God does his most intimate work. And it is the closing of the channels through which the genuine relationships he has prepared for your next season will need to flow. You cannot close the door to pain without also closing the door to love. So the invitation, and I know it is hard, is to release the guard around your heart, not naively, not recklessly, with wisdom and with discernment, but too consciously in prayer. Before God, choose softness. Choose to remain open. Choose to believe that what comes next will not repeat what came before, because you are not the same person you were before, and you are not going to the same place you were going before. God is sending people into your next season, people who are specifically designed for where you are going, people who are not threatened by your light. People who do not need you to be smaller so they can feel bigger. People who will celebrate your victories as genuinely as they sit with you in your struggles. People who are going where you are going, who need the gifts you carry, and who carry the gifts you need. They are coming. Do not seal yourself off against them because of what others did. The third thing, and perhaps the most counterintuitive of all, begin to thank God now. Not after the vindication, not after the breakthrough, not after the table is fully set and the enemy is visibly silenced. Now, in the middle of it, in the waiting, in the quiet, in the season that still feels more like winter than spring. Because Thanksgiving is not just an emotional response to visible blessings. Thanksgiving is a prophetic declaration. It is the activation of faith in its most powerful form. It is the statement spoken to the invisible realm with the full authority of a child of God that says, I already see it, I already know it is done, and I refuse to let what I see with my natural eyes override what God has already written over my life when you begin to live from that place. That place of deep, anchored, pre-breakthrough thanksgiving, something shifts, not just internally. Though internally the shift is profound, something shifts in the atmosphere around you. The spiritual interference begins to lose traction. The heaviness begins to lift, the clarity begins to return, and gradually, then suddenly, the evidence of what God has been building in secret begins to break through into the visible. The table begins to appear right there, in the sight of everyone who said it would never come. In the full, undeniable public view of every person who whispered against you and plotted your diminishment and celebrated what they thought was your end. There it is, your vindication, your elevation, your God-prepared, enemy-witnessed, time-stamped, heaven-authored table of blessing and honor, not because you fought for it, because he built it, and you, in the middle of your own fiercest storm, chose to trust him enough to stop fighting and start worshiping. That is the move that changes everything. That is the move that activates the boomerang. That is the move that turns your deepest valley into the launchpad for your highest flight. I want to speak to you one final time. Before I close, I want to speak to you. The one who is not sure you have enough left in you to take one more step. The one who has been praying the same prayer for so long that you have begun to wonder if your voice is even reaching heaven. The one who has given everything you had to people and purposes that returned very little. The one who has wept in private for losses that no one around you fully understood. The one who has smiled in public and shattered in secret. Hear this. Your tears have been collected, every single one. Not one has hit the floor without God reaching down to gather it. Not one moment of your suffering has escaped his attention. Not one night you spent wondering if it would ever change went unwitnessed by the one who created the stars and holds the span of eternity in the palm of his hand. He saw you, he sees you, he has never, not for one single moment, taken his eyes off you, and everything, every betrayal, every loss, every door slammed in your face, every whisper campaign, every coordinated attack, every midnight when the darkness felt thicker than you could breathe through, every single thing was known to him, permitted by him, and being used by him, not to break you, to build you into the version of yourself that this world desperately needs, into the fullness of who he created you to be before the world ever got its hands on you and started trying to shape you into something smaller, something more manageable. You are not manageable. You are anointed. You are not finished. You are beginning. And the people who tried to write your ending have no authority over your story because they did not write the first word of it. God looked through the corridors of eternity all the way to this exact moment, to you, watching this in whatever room you are sitting in right now, and he said your name, and he chose you, not because you were perfect or polished or had it all together. Because he decided that your story, fully surrendered to his hands, would carry a weight of glory that this world would not be able to ignore. That is who you are. That is what they were afraid of. That is what they tried to stop, and they failed. If this message reached something inside you today, if even one sentence landed in a place that needed to hear it, I want you to do something for me right now. Hit that like button. Not for me. Do it as an act of faith. Do it as a declaration that says, I receive this, I believe this, and I am stepping into this new season. And then think of one person in your life, just one, someone who has been carrying a weight they cannot name, someone who has been walking through a betrayal, a quiet battle, an exhaustion that goes deeper than the surface, someone who needs to hear exactly what was said in this video today. Share this with them. Right now, before you close this tab, before you move on to the next thing. One share from you could be the turning point in someone else's entire story. And if this is the kind of message that feeds your spirit, if you want to keep receiving words that go deeper than the surface, words that speak to the real things you are walking through in real life, then subscribe to this channel and turn on the notification bell, because every message I bring to this space is brought with one purpose: to make sure that the person God sends here leaves with exactly what they came for. You are not here by accident, and you are not leaving the same. God bless you. I will see you in the next one.